All right. Hi, my name's Sierra. If you don't know, I'm a fourth year architecture major currently on my internship. Um, Thank you. Here's my lovely exec board. If you guys want to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, I'm Alex Schaefer and I am the secretary.
Hello, I'm Gabriella Weiner. I'm a third year landscape architecture student and I'm the events coordinator.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Farrell and I am the treasurer and I'm a first year.
This is Jackie, our lovely vice president. And Michaela, our PR, is outside with our auction is still going on. So if you're all interested in bidding on some items or entering a raffle as well, you're more welcome to do so. It's outside. Okay. Hello, our two lovely guest speakers. Give them a round of applause, please. We still have two more guest speakers coming in, but due to traffic, they're going to be slightly a little bit late.
All right, we're going to have each of our two guest speakers introduce themselves, what their field is, and how they got here.
Hi, I'm Bridget Mudd. I was an urban planning major here, and I graduated in spring of 23. I'm currently a development associate at the Annex Group. We're based out of Indianapolis. I help build affordable housing, more specifically 4% affordable housing. So compare that to a 9% affordable housing. My projects are around 200 to 250 units. I build coast to coast. I'm all the way out in Corvallis, Oregon, and I'm also all the way to Raleigh, North Carolina. So spend a lot of time trying to get projects built.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Henriquez. I graduated from Ball State with my bachelor's of urban planning spring of 2024, so I'm a very recent grad. I am the deputy planning director for the city of Shelbyville, so it's south of Indianapolis. And anything that comes into Shelbyville from big gas stations, community centers, any kind of site plans I review and approve and just help the developer or help a resident that's trying to renovate their home, anything of that nature I do in my work.
So as a beginning question, we just wanted to ask you guys what got you into this field and like what inspired you to be here in your professions today?
So when I started here at Ball State, I actually thought I was going to be an architect. I think that's a very common story for most of us, but I came in here thinking I was going to be an architect. And went through the first year program, and I had a first year professor that was an urban planner, and he talked about what he does and what he did with some of the projects, and I kind of gained some interest, but I still wasn't fully committed to be an urban planner. So once I got into the process of deciding what I wanted to do, I was stuck between architecture and urban planning, so I connected with our student resources and talked to a fourth year student about his experience during Ball State in urban planning. He talked about some of the projects he had done in his internship and at school. So I kind of made that choice that I think this might be the better fit than architecture. I made the switch, and I think it obviously was the right choice. And I completed my degree recently in.
I actually came to CAP to be a landscape architect. I always have wanted to be part of the built environment, and I love being outside. So I actually went through the first year program and did a year of landscape architecture until I worked on a project where I got to learn more about the zoning and more permitting process regarding my site. And I was like, gosh, maybe I'm a nerd. Maybe I do love to read about zoning code. And so then I decided to switch over to urban planning. And of course, I wanted to be a part of community development when I was in urban planning. But then I took Chris Palladino's class about real estate development. And when I heard him talk about how you can be so ingrained with a project to where it's truly your baby, it's all you think about is your project, and how in depth you can actually be, and if you want to help with the architects all the time, you can be really hands-on regarding the design process. So hearing that project management side of things really got me excited. And then, of course, I love the community. I want to serve communities, and so I then talked with an alumni of urban planning who worked in affordable housing my final semester of my senior year here, and I was like, okay, that's exactly what I want to do, is build affordable housing. So yeah, just a lot of trial and error for me, but I'm really excited to be in affordable housing now.
Uh-oh. Right.
What would you say your powerhouse skill is in urban planning?
Ooh, I know. Okay. A lot of development associates, I would say, are a lot of finance majors. It's kind of rare to have an urban planning background when I'm talking to other associates in this field. So I would say a superpower is how I am aware of the impact on communities that my projects will bring. I don't view my projects as something that's going to give me a great return on my investment. It's not something that's just looks really great in my performa and I'm getting an amazing development yield. So I feel like it's lost on a lot of developers. And I've been to a bunch of community meetings. I know what it's like to be on the other side of things, being on the city side and having developers come and talk. So I think that sense of knowing that people will live, work, and learn in the places I'm building, I think that is really like a great strength I have in my field.
I would say one of my great strengths would be building relationships, working for the public. You have to make sure you engage with your community, make them feel included, especially when there are some controversial projects that are coming in and there might not be a big fan of what's coming in. And just making sure they are included in the entire process, answering any questions, any doubts that they may have, and just making sure they feel that they are being listened to.
One thing that I was kind of interested in, Maria, you said that you really were influenced to go to urban planning because of a fourth year that you talked to. And I was doing a little bit of research, and I saw that both of you were really involved in clubs and organizations while you were at CAP. And I was wondering, especially with that role of a mentorship that really helped you, kind of why was that important for you, and how did that shape your school career?
Yeah, so during my time here, I was a CAP ambassador and a mentor. And I think it is very, very important that we have these programs because, at least for my experience, that mentorship that I had from that fourth year student helped me make that final decision of going into urban planning. So I was very happy that I was able to do that for other students, for other first year students, or even high schoolers that were thinking about coming to Ball State to do the CAP program. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was a part of SPA. We had a lot of alumni come in and talk to us a bunch of times. Really having a great mentor for me would be Chris Palladino. I reached out to him one day and I was like, hey, I'm curious in real estate development. Who can I talk to? And he gave me a list of 10 Ball State alumni I could talk to. And then I reached out, I got a bunch of coffees, got a bunch of free breakfasts, and I actually ended up getting my position at the Annex Group, working alongside one of those people I just met for coffee from Ball State Urban Planning. And so having that kind of mentorship of someone who knows what it's like to go through CAP is extremely helpful. But also I feel really lucky to have really good professors who've helped me. I talk to Palladino, oh my gosh, all the time. He's probably annoyed by me, but he's just a great resource to have.
I have a question. You said you switched your major from landscape from your second year. Can you explain how the process that was? If someone who is a first year might declare their major landscape and want to switch into something, how was the stress or the decision behind it to make that decision?
I would say it was honestly mine was a pretty simple transition because I was lucky enough to where I got a coffee with Scott Truex. And he was like, oh yeah, we can count your studios. You can count those. You can graduate with everyone you're in first year with. So I was very lucky by that. But my studios kind of got switched where fall semester, I'd be with my graduating class. And then spring semester, I'd go take studios with Maria and her graduating class. So that was definitely different. Once again, like, I took some classes really late, but it honestly all worked out pretty well. I mean, I liked getting to be with all the other years in urban planning, so I kind of say that's a benefit too.
Bringing that up, kind of like switching from LA to urban planning, that's really interesting to me because I'm an LA student, but also really like interested in planning. And Maria as well, I know that like with Shelbyville, we had an immersive learning project for LA working with you. So I wanted to kind of ask you both of like the overlap between the fields and like kind of the cross-disciplinary work that you guys do.
Yeah, so especially on my side, I work with honestly everybody from landscape architects, engineers, realtors, so there's a lot of room for overlap. And that's where, like I said, building those relationships come into play, and it is important because in the area that I work in, there is a lot of room for people to have questions, to be able to come into Shelbyville and build, or even just come and live there. So, yeah.
I would say one of the biggest strengths with having that background in landscape architecture of the year, when I first started at the Annex group, because development is so experience-based, we just got this program called Test Fit. And you can build, oh my gosh, site plans in 5 minutes. And so my first year at my company, I was the only one in my whole company who knew how to use Test Fit. Because honestly, like, the interface was like a video game to me. I was like, I know how to do this, no one else knew how. And so I'd create test fits just every other week. And I was still experienced like getting to design because I did love that. That was my favorite part of it. So I was totally okay with creating all those test fits. It was like my favorite thing. But now I've transitioned more into project management side of things. But it's still helpful when I'm reviewing site plans for projects. I mean, I have design meetings every other day regarding projects. And sometimes I notice people have a hard time like finding the scale. Like we'll pull project up in Bluebeam. People are like, where's the scale bar? I'm like, it's down there, guys. But it's just, I don't know. I do think that has helped me a lot, especially like test fits. That was my life for whole years creating those.
I think going back to when you guys were talking about mentorships, and how important that was for you guys, the transition from being a student into your internships, I know that is something that a lot of people are anxious about. So do you have any like advice for some people here, or how that transition was for you guys?
I was hoping this question was going to be asked. So my advice would be obviously network. I know Ball State preaches about that, but I would go the step further of reaching out to people. How many here are on LinkedIn? Good job. So LinkedIn will become your best friend when it comes to networking. Seeing people that are like on there, you can see where they went to school. So alumni are always open to come and talk to you, set up a quick Zoom call, grab coffee. So networking and even job shadowing. I did that a lot in my undergrad. I would reach out to alumni and ask to job shadow, just because the classroom teaches you some stuff, but it's nothing like actually seeing a person in the work field practicing doing it. And that's actually how I got my internship. I job shadowed, and then when I applied, they saw that I had that initiative to come and job shadow before I even applied. So yeah.
I can talk more on the like transition side of things. I honestly had a terrible time. Like, honestly, like my first day of work, I came home and cried. I was like, what did I just get myself into? But I was so like, I had such a vision of what working was. I was like, oh, so I sit at my desk 9 to 5 and I can't leave my desk. And I'm working every second. And then that's probably a me problem. But then I was like talking to my mentors, like Drew, who Ball State alum, who's also at the same company as mine. He was like, Bridget, you can go take a walk. You don't have to sit at your desk all day. What are you doing? And I'm like, okay. So like, just slowly like, and also just like finding your purpose within your position, because I kind of had a moment where I was like, I don't feel as if I'm contributing to projects as much. But now, like, I have my baby projects that I just love, and I always think about them. So I honestly had a hard time. And then I felt like I would just, like, come home, and I just want to go to bed. But I'm like, no, I need to go to the gym, or I need to, like, my friends and I were really avid about, like, doing weeknight dinners, because you just fall into going home and going to bed. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So, I mean, like, completely honest, yeah, it's a struggle. And when I would tell people that, everyone's like, oh, yeah, like, post-college, it's tough, but you get through it.
So we appreciate your honesty, because I know a lot of us are, like, concerned about that. But speaking of, you know, that first start was rough, but what have been some of, like, the best moments for both of you guys once you got into the field?
I will also add to the previous question. I didn't really answer it, but don't be afraid to ask questions in internships. When I first started, there were a lot of terms that I wasn't really familiar with. So I was the person that I would ask questions, and I would tell my boss or my supervisor, hey, I have a dumb question. But it's not really a dumb question, because you're there to learn. Can you repeat the other question? Sorry.
I was going to say, since we talked about, you know, some of the starts have been rough, but what were some of, like, the best moments that you guys remember since, like, transitioning from a student into the workforce?
Yes. So one of the best things is I feel a lot more knowledgeable, and the sense of being able to help a community, especially since I've been there from an intern now to my current position. As an intern, I feel like I didn't know what I was doing. I just feel like I was helpful. But now I feel like I can help someone walk through the whole process of, like, a rezone or a site development plan approval. So, yeah.
I would say, honestly, seeing projects come to fruition in, like, the real world. I feel like a lot of us come to CAP because we want to create stuff and go point and say, I did that. That's my project. And so I've recently just been able to go to a lot of site visits. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've stared at this site on surveys, on plat drawings, on Google Maps. And then, like, last week I got to go see a site in person, and I'm like, okay, I did not know there was 10 foot of grade change on this site. Glad I visited. But it just, I don't know, it brings a sense of scale as well. And then kind of, I guess, like a lame one is I got to name a project. Very excited. It's just something so simple, but it's like, I don't know, I just feel like CAP, we all just want to contribute and say, I got to do this on a project.
So kind of going off what both of you had said, Bridget, you said it was really important to, like, find purpose in your position, and Marie, you had said, like, how you're so glad that now you're more knowledgeable and able to help the people in your community. I wanted to kind of ask you both to expand more on, like, what kind of things are important to you in your design work and professional career, and how that kind of, like, came about. Like, how did you find that and find your passion?
I can start. So part of the, like, I was really struggling with finding my passion was because I was making test fits for a year. And I was just touching projects. I was assisting every VP or director. I would touch a project and it's like, cool, thanks. I'm doing another project. To where I was getting, like, just they're all blurred. I was like, what was the name of that one in Omaha? Oh, okay. And so now that I've shifted to be trained, and of course you want a company that doesn't want you to stay stagnant, like, seriously, if you're not happy, like, make sure they're helping you grow and learn. Now that I have just a few projects to where I can really get to know city council. Oh, I know all the city council in Corvallis, Oregon now. I know about all the shops around Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's now that I've really just honed in on few sites, few projects, I think that's where I feel more of the impact, because I'm really learning everyone who's involved, and I'm not just sitting in on random meetings.
For me, it definitely helped with the internship, because I knew personally that I didn't like the design aspect of urban planning. I overthink my designs too much for me to be an urban designer. So that internship helped find that, like, I like more of the administrative stuff. So doing staff reports, writing the reports that go to the Plan Commission, BZA. Being organized is a skill that I love to do. And I didn't feel like the design aspect was that for me. So yeah.
Even though you talked about how you don't really like design, what are like some cultural things or experiences that shaped why you chose urban planning and what you picked to implement in your projects?
Okay, I guess like looking at what surrounds a site regarding design-wise, very basic kind of high-level design-wise stuff. We're working on a project out in Omaha, and when we were talking with our architects, we were like, we don't, in this urban infill area, we don't want to just build this 5-story building and have it just stand out among your community. And so we did a site visit, and we walked the community, and we took note of all the materials that's surrounding our site. And that helped us narrow down like the colors of how we're gonna build this. We're like, okay, a lot of yellow brick, so let's do yellow brick with our project. So I would say that's like just a very kind of high level point of that kind of design-wise, incorporating communities and how that can impact them.
Yeah. What cultural influences and experience growing up affected the way that you view design?
Well, for me, since I'm not super involved with design, it's kind of, yeah, okay.
I played a lot of Zoo Tycoon as a kid. I love that game. I always get asked because I'm in urban planning. They're like, "Oh, did you play City Skylines?" And I'm like, "No, I was playing Zoo Tycoon." So like, I don't know. I feel like that really plays a role in like my design because when I was talking about test fits, like the interface, I was like, "Oh, I'm playing Zoo Tycoon or Roller Coaster Tycoon right now." So honestly, like, yeah, that's shaped me.
I really love that. When I was younger, I had these wooden blocks that I would play with, and that kind of helped me grow into the design field, but I'm kind of wondering, thank you, because of that, like playing games as a kid or growing up, what do you think kind of can be done to make the field of design more like known and more accessible for younger people trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives?
I would honestly say gosh, it's so hard because I feel like design can be so broad regarding, because I mean, you can even go into the sense of development. An architect who specializes in low-tech, low-income housing, they design completely differently than if I was hiring a market rate. So it's just, I don't know, I guess just gaining more exposure to people, maybe like, I do know like societies like ULI, ASLA, they hold a lot of workshops with like high school students, just bringing more awareness. I know ULI does a lot of that. But yeah, it's so hard because it's so broad, but I mean, going back to video games, yeah. Everyone asks me if I play City Skylines. Like, every kid knows that. It's a great game. Or even like, oh my gosh, Age of Empires? That's kind of city design. So it's just Sims. You could list them. Yeah, video games, great resource to getting more into design and more exposure to it too.
Well, I personally played Minecraft, I will say. But yes! And then going back to what you guys were talking about, sort of on a similar thing of exposure to, letting people be aware of design, but more into when you are designing, like within your communities. I know there's a lot of things you can do in the professional world to like surveys and involve your community, but at the student level, I know it's a lot more difficult. Do you have any advice for people as how to know the community they're building in a little bit better?
I would say Gosh, yeah, you have to walk. You have to walk your cities, your communities, your towns. You have to walk them. Yeah, like I said, visiting sites, that's very changing. How you view your like massing studies and all that. Definitely listen to community members, but community members can be very jaded to change, which you experience a lot. So it's like, you gotta listen to them, you gotta listen to hear what they're saying, but yeah, you can be met with a lot of discourse as well. But I mean, you are also students, so it also could be very hypothetical and high level on what you're asking of communities. But then, yeah, tying that into design, like any cultural things that are important to the city, any famous figures like that you could maybe tie in who are from there, because everyone loves to incorporate history into their developments. But yeah, not sure if I answered that, but.
This is to go off like students. What are some things that like CAP or the college didn't prepare you for moving from the to college to professional world? What are some things that college or CAP didn't prepare you as well as you thought that they were going to prepare you for?
At least for urban planning, we did a couple public meetings, so kind of knowing the format of how that goes and how to conduct yourself in public. Because the public is not necessarily required to be professional, so knowing how to present yourself and handle situations if the public kind of gets out of hand, because they are free to say whatever, opinionate however they feel right. So that kind of helped with that transition.
Yeah, I totally agree with Maria. When I was at my company, they were like, oh yeah, neighborhood meetings. And I was like, oh, I've done a bunch of those. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I know the public. I can help with that. But definitely something I felt like I got lacked in, and maybe that's just because I went into development, which I would say is a very business-oriented career. That's also been an adjustment for me, kind of being in a more business-focused world. Was I remember there was like a BOMA panel here at Ball State, and it was me and all these Miller students, and they're all in suits. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know we had to dress up for this. And so just like, I don't know, I feel like that kind of professionalism, I definitely felt like I lacked. Yeah, I just remember that was so jarring to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wish someone told me I need to, at least in the field of development, I should have presented myself in a much nicer way than jeans. But yeah, and also just that kind of, yeah, very businessy networking, getting better at just reaching out to people for coffees, for sure.
Thank you for that response. It's kind of like reassuring to hear that like even on the job when you don't know something, like you're still gonna grow and kind of get comfortable with it. And kind of on that, I wanted to ask, maybe not like a question that you'd love to think about, but what's kind of been one of the like hardest things to do, or like a mistake you've made at the job, and how you've handled that?
So this actually happened to me recently. So BZA stands for Board of Zoning and Appeals. I write staff reports for the board members of the cases that are coming through. So majority of the cases are development standard variances. So basically it's a fancy way of saying they're asking for an exception from our ordinance, which is another fancy word to say it's our rules that we have for people to be able to build stuff. And I made a mistake on the staff report and did not put the right approval statement, which it is a live video, so that everyone saw that, but you are human, so you're allowed to make mistakes. I basically just fixed it really quickly and went to go get another printed copy. So it is perfectly fine to make a mistake. You just learn from it. I'm more careful now when I write the staff reports to make sure everything is what it needs to be in state.
All development is learning from mistakes. That's what everyone tells me. Actually, I just had my year review with my boss today, and she told me I don't put myself out enough to make mistakes. She's like, you need to just push yourself, get yourself even more uncomfortable to learn. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll make mistakes now. But we're young in our career. That's kind of what we're supposed to do. But I also have messed up a lot of performance in my life. My finance team has gotten very upset because I accidentally click things, and then our gap is like millions of dollars. So they're like, who is that? And it was me. And you see on the Excel, edited by Bridget. So yeah, I've messed up a few of those, and it's always embarrassing. But you learn. My boss wants me to make more mistakes.
So it seems like you guys are both in a firm or an office where you do seem really comfortable. So do you have any advice also for whenever we're doing our interviews, choosing the correct firm, and how you would gauge like how that is for you?
So for me, like I said, I did a lot of job shadowing in my undergrad. So with that, I kind of got to see their work culture, and I quickly figured out what cities I would and wouldn't work for, because each city kind of has a different way they lay out their planning department. So that's how I kind of figured that Shelbyville was a good fit. As well, with the job shadowings, you kind of figure out how the communities lay out and how they do things of the processes that I'm now involved with. So yeah.
Honestly, having like really good mentors who are in your field can help you a lot, because at least in my field, everyone knows each other, and it does stem out to cities, because all developers are working with cities across Indiana and everywhere. So having good mentors who are still actively in the field, you're close with them. They'll tell you what they've heard going on at other places or how their company's treating them. A question I would drop to them is like, hey, I have a really sick cat. What happens if I need to get home and give him insulin? Like, do I have to go take PTO for that? Like, and they were like, no, just go home, take care of your cat, Bridget, it's okay. So you try to find those sneaky questions too when you're like in the interview, because of course like HR is not gonna talk badly on their company culture. So you try and find those sneaky ones as well.
All right, so we have a little slight intermission to announce our raffle winners. All right. All right, thank you for that great intermission. Also, thank you for participating in our raffle. We still have items on the table outside for our auction to help raise funds for our organization. So if you're interested in bidding, free will to do so. Yeah, that makes sense, question mark. And now back to our great symposium. Yay, we have 2 additional individuals, if they please introduce themselves.
Andre Denman, graduate of 1993. I know that sounds like a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago now. Everything was in black and white. I think they were using VCRs and things of that nature. So.
Hi, I'm Nia Denman. This is my dad. I graduated last year, 2024, spring 2024. I was an interior design major, so this is just new for me in general. I was just here like you guys literally last year, so yeah.
Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Kind of what we had been talking about for the last beginning bit of the symposium with, thank you, with Bridget and Maria was kind of like getting into the profession and how it was as a young professional. But I was curious for you two what your perspective was, Andre, with kind of being in the field for like quite some time, and then with Nia, like how it's been and how you think your perspectives changed kind of being involved in the design field your whole life.
I'll let my young daughter go first. I forgot to say I graduated from the landscape architecture department.
So for me professionally, right now, it's a little tricky because when I graduated, I thought that I was just gonna go straight into like a corporate job and like work as in an architecture firm or something. And I did do that for my internship, and it was really great. But I realize now that I work my job now, I'm a visual merchandiser for a furniture store. And I was like, I don't even know what that is or what we even do. But really, it's like I get to be as creative as I want to. I get to learn everything about furniture that I might have not understood when I was in school. And so I'm still building my skill set and things like that for my like career. But I realized that I didn't want to just like, I guess, sit in a computer all day. And if you do, that's totally fine. I'm not saying that's bad. But I'm just saying for me, I wanted to be more creative and do more things that are like physical. So I feel like where I'm at now, I didn't think I was gonna be there, but it's been working out great for me so far. And I'm still building my like resume to see where I wanna go next. And it could be a corporate job, but for now, I'm just still like learning and building since it's like my first year out of school. And I really love it. So interior design can take you in a lot of different avenues. There's so many niches within design. So yes, that's what I would say professionally how it's been for me since I've graduated, and it's smooth sailing so far.
All right, so the old man gets to talk now. All right. So when I first came out, we were still doing drawings by hand and on vellum. I know that sounds like it's foreign to some people in this room. But when I went to high school, the greatest high school on the east side of Indianapolis, Warren Central, they had a lot in their career center, which they probably had at other lesser high schools in Indianapolis. I'm poking fun at some of my friends because I know where they went, so I'm just joking. But they had a lot of architectural drafting, mechanical drafting, industrial drafting classes, and they were starting this thing. They had built this little room, and they were starting this thing called AutoCAD. And so I took AutoCAD classes in high school in 1987 and 88, and I had so many hours of AutoCAD that I was like a junior draft apprentice or something like that. And so I think that was one of the things that got me into Ball State, because again, I took all the architecture, all the drafting classes, and having AutoCAD was like a niche, a check mark, because they were just starting that. So getting to your question, what happened was once I graduated from Ball State, because I knew AutoCAD and none of the older guys at that time did, I got sat at a computer and I was like the draftsman for everything. And so I got a little jaded because I was upset, because it was like, I'm not getting to design, I'm just drafting all these designs. But I didn't realize that I was getting to work on some of the monumental projects in Indianapolis at that time, like the gardens for the zoo, the Monon Trail. You may have heard of it. If you haven't, it's like beachfront property now that keeps going north and south. Like, I was getting to work on all these signature projects, but I was just jaded because I was like just the drafts person. And so I say that to you is don't take lightly where you start out, because it's going to train you for something later, okay? And so pay attention to the things that you're getting to do and the projects you're getting to work on. And so ask some questions. Yes, you're gonna put in some late nights and some all-nighters. Do they still do all-nighters here? I don't know. And so, but again, you're getting to learn. So take the knowledge and everything you're learning here at Ball State. I'm just gonna say this, we're being recorded, right? How far does this go out, April? I'm just gonna say, do not think you're not getting the best education you are. They didn't pay me to say this, but I'm telling you, you're getting the best. Like, these walls are dripping with creativity and knowledge, and it shows when, like, the Ball State Architecture College is like in high regard. There are other great schools just because of the name of those schools, but Ball State Architecture, for people who are hiring, it carries a lot of weight. So don't embarrass us when you get out there, because again, they're looking for people like you to help them progress this design and things. So I hope that answers your question. All right.
So actually, ironically, we were talking earlier how Bridget got stuck doing test fit, how you got stuck doing AutoCAD, and how these technical skills got you the job, but maybe didn't land you exactly where you wanted to be. But does everybody in general have advice for maybe standing a bit above some other applicants for internships or jobs, but not getting stuck in a position like that?
Say it out. I think I was blocking Nia. She couldn't hear you. how to stand out.
So like whenever you're wanting to apply, how you guys got your jobs with your technical skills, but then you kind of got stuck doing that same thing. How do you, in your resume or in your experience, stand out above some other applicants, but you don't get stuck just doing like a technical skill?
Anybody want to take it before the old man starts talking?
I can say something. I was stuck doing test fits. That's all I was doing, and I felt like I got pigeonholed doing that when I really wanted to grow my skills as a project manager. And so I had a really great boss, and she's my mentor, and she really advocated for me and really was like, hey, Bridget's feeling stuck. She wants to grow and be a managing developer one day. And so I honestly got very lucky in having someone advocate for me, but then in the sense, when I'm mentoring someone, I then return the favor, and I will help and advocate for them in their growth so they're not stagnant.
So that's great that she's talked about having a mentor. There are many people in the field like me. I know I'm using April as an example because she was here when I was here, but she's come back and she knows a lot of people. And so if you're needing a mentor, if you're needing somebody to just put some things in your ear, we can find those people for you. We're blessed and we're excited to come back and give back to College of Architecture, to Ball State, because again, that name means something. One thing I will tell you, and I'm probably going to throw my daughter under the bus here a little bit, don't take for granted those who went before you and think that, oh, that was a different time, they don't know what they're talking about. So when they're giving you advice, you need to hold on to those things like they're Bitcoin or something valuable, because they're telling you some secrets that will help you stand out above other folks. And so one thing I would suggest, because when I was here, we never left this building other than to go home. Before there was Uber Eats, every restaurant around here delivered to this building because they knew there's stories of people going in as a freshman and never coming out until the 5th or 6th year. And so they were already delivering. But one thing I would recommend to help you stand out, there are other areas and colleges and departments in this school, outside this building, that will make you stand out, like the business school right across the street here. Take some finance classes, because I know that they push design and creativity here, but there is a thing called a budget that you're going to have to figure out how to stay within, or you won't stay employed very long. And so finance, corporate finance, how to do spreadsheets, how to really hone in on your budgets, that will help you stand out. There's a construction school across right down the way. When I actually graduated, other than AutoCAD, another thing that I ended up doing was doing construction inspection on sewers, on curbs, things like that. Again, that made me valuable to the firm that I was at. It was another skill set, but I didn't take classes over there. I just learned as I went. But I'm telling you, it would be great if you knew how the things that you were going to design, how they're supposed to be built, and you can tell the people in the field how it's supposed to go. And so again, that will make you stand out even more. Again, I understand we all want to be the next Frank Lloyd Wright or the next, whoever, but you're going to also have to know how it gets built. And so again, that will help you stand out as well. So take some other classes that in those niches that will help you.
Going off of what my dad said, basically, yes, I agree 100%. To get some other classes that go along with what you want to do. My minor was in entrepreneurship and innovation, so I knew when I came into school, I want to learn how to do interior design, but I also want to own a business. So I'm going to take classes that go along with that. And also, I didn't even know that my major and minor would also, like my minor specifically, would kind of be important to getting my job that I have now. I had like 3 interviews to get this job for a visual merchandiser at a retail store, which I wouldn't even think that would have to happen. But I realized there's a lot that goes into, because I'm basically like, I have an office, like I'm a manager of this store. Like the whole store and floor is mine to not only design, but to help people understand how they can design their homes, how I'm communicating like the structure of the actual business and things like that, and also budgeting. And there's like so much paperwork and also planning. I get to like write off plans for the warehouse people to put the stuff on the floor. It's just so many things that go into it. So whatever job or whatever career you want to go into, definitely have a well-rounded degree, because that can help you get into a lot of more doors than just having that design degree. So just try to think outside the box of like, what other things do I want to incorporate with my degree going forward. Yeah.
Before I pass the mic back this way, something else came to my mind. I just turned 55, so give me some grace. It's taking me time to remember some things. The other thing, your classmates, again, to stand out, the Ball State group is very big. Your classmates, I know sometimes, I know when we were here, the critique of other people's projects, sometimes we took that serious, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we were kind of mean, sometimes we were okay with people we liked. And so the thing you have to remember is the persons that are in your cohort that you're spending time with, they might end up being your boss one day. You may need them for a job one day. There was a gentleman who is my boss right now. He was actually getting his graduate degree here at Ball State. And I was taking that first plants class, and we were walking around. And so me and 3 other guys, I will not throw them under the bus, but we were all pretty bad. The reason, again, we were 19 years old. The gentleman was from the far East Coast. He had a very strong East Coast accent, near Boston, near Rhode Island. So imagine that person trying to say the scientific and biological names of certain plants. And so being a frivolous, wet behind the ears 19-year-old, we were joking with him like, are you speaking English? What is going on? Like, we were giving him the blues. Well, I say all that to say, be careful, because you may need that person for a job one day. And remember, I told you he's now my boss. He overlooked that because he was a lot more mature than we were. And he knew, again, the name Ball State Architecture means something. And so I say that to stand out. Remember who your classmates are. Treat them with grace. Help each other, because you may need them for a job one day, a reference, a position, whatever.
So I'm gonna just bounce off of what you just said. That's where you tie in networking. So that's another way you can stand out. Networking, meeting people, kind of getting your name out there. Once you meet people, that person might say, hey, like, I met this person for coffee, and they're like, oh, what can you tell me about them? Because they just applied here. So networking is also beneficial in how you can stand out, because people talk to each other, especially with urban planning being a more tight-knit community. We know each other. We talk to everyone. We know people from here and there.
This was a follow-up question. You guys really talked about how you were involved in other activities. How did being in NOMAS and your other activities outside of CAP like influence your design aspect and how you do your work?
How we balance everything. So outside of my work, I'm a principal planner for Indy Parks and Recreation. So I handle all the design, short-range and long-term plans. I used to also manage the greenways, but that's now under the Department of Public Works. We still consult with them because all the history is in parks. And so I spend a lot of time with design, working with firms and design firms, directing those designs. Outside of my job, I'm currently in a graduate program for seminary. I also spend a lot of time at my church, directing outreach, community outreach, working with youth, working with the community. We have a CDC that our church has started. We actually just built apartments across the street from our church for homeless and homeless veterans. And so between seminary and work and family life, I have no life. So the thing I like to do outside is probably read, bike and walk on the trails and in the parks to see how they're doing, and take pictures. And when I take vacations, we go on cruises and get out of the country. And so, those things influence design, because I'm always looking at thinking of other people in the design. You can have the most beautiful designs, you can have the greatest thing in your catalog and portfolio, but if they don't function for the people that use it, they're not going to come back to that park. They're not going to come back to that family center. They're not going to use that trail again. So my mind is always thinking about others and how they can use the designs and the improvements that we do. So much so that when I'm on vacation, I'm taking pictures of trash cans and benches and other things and sending it to my boss, and he's like, "What is wrong with you? You're supposed to be on vacation." Because I'm always trying to improve the parks in Indianapolis.
I'm also involved with the Urban Land Institute of Indiana. I'm on a committee for their Real Estate Diversity Initiative. It's just a class, but ULI, it's not a solely developer society. It's with engineers, architects, planners, anyone who touches anything in the built environment. And I think being on committee with people of other disciplines, hearing what they're really prioritizing regarding projects, I think that helps me a lot throughout the design process, being the developer.
So even though I'm not really involved with design, one thing that helps me is another organization in planning is APA. But seeing how other communities are handling things, like for example, right now we're in the process of amending our business neighborhood zoning district. So we're talking to other communities to seeing how they kind of lay out their regulations for properties that are zoned in that zoning district.
Not sure how I'm gonna answer this question for right now, because with my job, I've only been there for a little bit. So within my career, it's still I'm still a baby adult. So I haven't incorporated a lot into what I do right now. But when I was in school, I was involved in multiple different organizations just to understand people better, because understanding people does help with design. Like my father said, yes. It's definitely you're not designing things just to make them look pretty, you're designing for people. And I know within my career with interior design, people are inside at least 90% of their lives, which is a lot, and it probably shouldn't be that way. But the inside of a building is so influential into how people think, act, interact with each other, interact just with anything. So it's just important to not only think oh, this is pretty, I'm just designing it because I like curves, but where is that curve going? What are we doing with it? Have a purpose for everything. But within I guess everything else, I'm still learning, so.
All right, thank you all. And I just wanted to say I'm really glad that it doesn't change, that my camera roll is still always going to be full of benches and trash cans and paving patterns. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But kind of just still speaking about all of you being very involved in the community and clubs and activities, I kind of wanted to bring it back with it being the NOMAS Symposium. Andre, what inspired you to start the Ball State chapter of NOMAS, and how was that journey like?
About my third year, maybe fourth year, I guess I'll back up and be very transparent here. At the time when I was at Ball State, in all of the classes, the different groups, the fall, the spring, and the summer, I was the only African American person of color in all of those classes. So, with the whole conversation of DEI going on right now and why that's important. And I talked about all the classes and everything that I went through at the greatest high school on the east side of Indianapolis to try to get into this architecture school, I knew what I wanted to do in 7th grade. Like, I know that's kind of freakish. Most people don't know what they want to do in 7th grade. I was very good at math. My mom was an accountant. She nickeled and dimed me my whole life. And so I knew I could be an accountant because I was good at math, but I didn't want to be stuck at a desk counting pennies. And so I took a drafting class in 7th grade. It was called junior high at that time, so again, that dates me. And after taking that drafting class, like, that changed my life. I remember asking my teacher, what kind of people do this all day? And he listed a bunch of stuff, and he said architect, and I was like, I'm gonna be an architect. And so I went to the library, I read all the books about all the great architects. I went to my counselor. They got tired of me, like when they really had counselors that counseled students. I was like, what do I need to do to get into architecture school? Before Google, we had this thing, like, it was a big phone book, and you used to have to go through that book for all the colleges to see what majors they had. And so every day in study hall, I would go to my counselors and go through that book and basically made a list of all of the architecture schools. Because at that time, I don't know if you could tell it, I also played football at the greatest school on the east side of Indianapolis. So, and so when I had people coming to recruit me to play football, my first question was, do you have architecture? How will I be able to take those classes and go to practice at the same time? There was a school up north in a state with a W, and their coach, who was a Hall of Fame coach now, like, they didn't really have a good football program, but like, he made that program what it is up in this state with a W. And he was recruiting me, and I kept saying, I went and looked in the book, but they said they didn't have architecture. Well, obviously I was supposed to come to Ball State because I found out later they had a really good architecture program. So again, I knew what I wanted to do. And so the fact that I was the only person of color in that whole class kind of shocked me, because I know there are other people that would like to be architects. There are other people that would like to do what you guys are all going to school for now. And so the next year, I'm getting to your question, I apologize, I'm just giving you history. The next year, because the last time I was here, we had the picture of the guys. They tripled it, and there were 3 guys behind me, so it was all 4 of us. And there was this poster in the hallway, and it was for NOMA, a meeting in Washington, D.C. And so Dr. Linda Keys, who was a professor here at the time, she figured out how to get some money to send all 4 of us to Washington, D.C. Now, actually, I had just put my name on the list so they could get more money. I really didn't have plans to go. And so once we went, you had to know Dr. Keys. She was like the mother hen of all of us, and she nagged me. She also kept me in the program because at the time I was playing football for Ball State, and I wasn't doing as well as I probably should have in the classes. And she, Mr. Denman, will you come to my office, me in front of all of my classmates? And so that embarrassment caused me to step my game up as well. I use that also as there also needs to be professors here that look like the students so that they can push them as well. But once we got to DC, it was like going to Wakanda. It was like going to Zamunda, if you've seen Coming to America. That's what it was like, because us 4 thought we were the only black students that wanted to be architects in the whole world. And once we got there, it was incredible. It was so incredible that later we told each other this driving back from DC. We all got so emotional we had to go in the bathroom because we started crying. Because just to see students that look like us, and to see people in the profession that look like us, when we didn't think there were any. And so that bus ride, that drive back, I don't think we slept, because we talked about, okay, we're gonna start a NOMA chapter, we're gonna bring people to come speak that look like us, which now looks like this symposium, because the other students had to know that there were more people like us. And so that's where the impetus for NOMAS came. And so the next year, I had already graduated, and so they told me to come back because they were going to New York. And so I got to go to New York and see New York for the first time. And so those trips and those times of seeing people that looked like you, that were doing what you wanted to do, but also students, that had hope and dreams and excitement. That's what made NOMAS here at Ball State. And so we came back, we were fired up. We were like almost kicking in the doors of the dean's office, like, hey, we need some money for this, we need this, we want this, yeah. So to all the executives and the people running the chair or whatever, when the students come in and they're excited, don't tap down that excitement, because they're finally using their voice. If you're gonna be at a table, use your voice. If you know people, like your professors and whoever it is helping with NOMAS, use the network to make the things happen that you want to happen. Use your voice for good, okay? So that's where it came from.
Thank you for that. And we are going to open up for Q&A in just a second, but before that, for everyone, just any last words of advice or just gold nuggets of knowledge you want to share with everyone before.
Enjoy college as much as you can. I mean, like, I talk to everyone. I visit college campuses for work a lot, and me and my coworkers are always like, oh, I wish we could go back. So truly, I know everyone says it to you, but truly enjoy it. Like, I even miss just studying sometimes, which sounds so bad. But yeah, enjoy it, seriously.
My advice would be, don't be afraid to reach out to alumni. They have already gone through this process. They have been in your shoes. They are more than happy to kind of just give advice as well of their experience at Ball State, and as also professionals.
My one piece of advice would be to celebrate your accomplishments. That's one thing that I feel like I lacked when I was in college. I felt like I was just on track. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and then I was just like, okay, I'm done. So I didn't take time a lot during college to be like, okay, I actually turned in my first assignment of the year, woohoo, or something. You know, just celebrate little things. Like, oh, my professor didn't have that many critiques for my thing, so maybe I did good, you know, something like that. Or, you know, when I graduated, it was like, wow, I graduated, like, I'm done, like, what now? So taking the time to appreciate, like, everything you're doing right now is very important. That's what I would say, just to sum it up.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Even if you're using AutoCAD, you're going to make mistakes. And so at your point where you are now, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Try as many crazy things as you can as it relates to design. I know I'm still at Ball State, so I know what goes on. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I will also say, when there are opportunities to go hear somebody speak or go to a play or to go on a trip or something like that, do everything you can to go and experience those speakers, those plays, or even go on those trips, because the field trips that we took here at the Architecture College were also life-changing. Going to Canada, I never got to go to Canada before. That changed, you know, my perspective on a lot of stuff. And so trips to different cities, I think that's why I take pictures and do all this stuff. Some of the guys that were in my cohort, they have a catalog of pictures of me sleeping everywhere. So it was like, oh, where's Waldo? So, but enjoy right now, because once you get out, life is going to start lifing. And so take advantage of the professors, the teachers, and even once you graduate, you are still, I forget what they say, with all rights and privileges, you can still come back and take a class. You can still come back and take something that didn't fall into the right category to get you to graduate, to check that box. So, yeah, please continue your education, because it will not stop, even after the degree, even after you walk across that stage and move that tassel to the left. Uh-oh, my daughter has another thing.
I apologize, but it did come to my brain. Go to as many spaces as you can as well, like on campus. Use your resources, but also go to the spaces. Like, okay, I know with interior design, I want to go into as many buildings as I can to be like, that's bad design. Let me try to see if I can. Let me see, like, never to design something like that. You know, just to critique spaces that are actually here, so you know how it feels, and you'll know when you're designing how it might feel when you're, like, making a space or anything. So, yeah.
That was great advice. Thank you so much for that. Also, I agree with this, the traveling. I like to travel too, so take advantage because they will help support you on your travels. Legit, we're going to Japan in the summer. Me and Alex, I saw your name in the email, but we're going to Japan. So use your resources because when is the next time you have affordable trips after you're done with school? Because life be life and 5,000 look like a lot more when you're out of school, okay? But we're going to also start on Q&A. Anybody interested in asking a question, please raise your hand so I can come to you.
Thank you all for showing up. It was a great conversation. I don't know if I can stoop, coming from the greatest high school on the west side, Ben Davis. This is who he was talking to, guys. He was slamming on me personally. So. Yeah. Anyway, all good things. There you go. Anyway, my question is, Nia was here last year and graduated, and I got to be there and witness Andre watching his daughter graduate, which was kind of a full circle moment. What was the single, knowing your daughter was coming under the blanket of CAP and coming into a rigorous program, what was the single biggest thing that you would have told her for advice? Then my question for Nia would be, did you follow it?
So about the time she started, interior design wasn't actually part of CAP, but it became part of CAP, I guess, doing that. And then there was this, it just started to get part, but the other thing that kind of happened was this little thing called COVID. So I don't think the first year and a half she got the full Ball State experience because, a lot of stuff was online or whatever. But one thing that I did tell her, being that the interior design program is in another building, was that she needed to keep coming over to this building because I knew about the professors and the resources and the things that this building had that would help her. And so I think it took her a while to finally listen to her dad, but once she did, it was kind of like, oh, they have a whole library, oh. And so, I kept trying to get her to go. I was like, you're a part of CAP, get over there, just walk around the building, at least meet people, meet professors, they might know something, so, yeah.
Okay, so my answer to that is interior design, and it's like outside of the building. So sometimes I felt like, am I really part of CAP? Like, is my major even really part of CAP if I'm not in the building? So why go over there? But it is, and I felt like coming in here for the first time, I was a little intimidated because it was so just stoic, it was just a lot of concrete. And my building is not like that. So I was like, I'm not used to all this concrete. I'm a little scared what's going on here. But I met one of my closest friends, Anaya Marshall. Hey, boo. And we used to be over here all the time. We just saw a video on Snapchat of us literally up in the, what are those study room things? The little club spaces, whatever, not club spaces, class spaces, my bad. But we was in there just studying, having a great time, just up there. I don't know, I would hang out with her for all-nighters. We would study and do things together and do our drafts and everything together. And yeah, design week, oh, so fun. So yeah, so I would say I did listen to my dad. I was a little nervous I was a little nervous at first because I was like, what am I doing in this building? But it did give me a lot of resources, and also the library gave me a lot of resources as well. So, and he also told me to get a minor in construction management, but I didn't want to do that. So I didn't listen to him on that piece of advice because I was like, I know I don't want to go into construction, but.
But you said you wanted to be a project manager.
But then I realized I wanted a business.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I was trying to help her with what she told me she wanted to do. So again.
Okay, does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, I'm gonna go to you first, Anaya.
Before you answer your question, I'm sorry. I have to say this about Nia and Anaya. The reason they got introduced to each other, again, this just goes to this whole networking thing. April, you asked this question. I'm a part of a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, when I came here. her dad is a member of my fraternity, but he went to Purdue, but I knew him from travels. And then also the third member of the Musketeers is another daughter of another fraternity brother. So when we were dropping them off during COVID, we didn't know all of our daughters were coming here. And somehow we like saw each other. We might have probably had a Sigma thing or something hanging out, and then we text each other. And the way they got to meet was we just sent them each other's cell phone numbers, like, hey, this is such and such's daughter, reach out to her. And so now, you know, like they're best buddies and they giggle all the time. So again, that goes to networking any way possible. So I hope that answers your question, April. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you had mentioned that at the very least the urban planning professionals, that you guys, it's a very close-knit field, but how close have you guys remained with the other professions that you would have taken first year with, like the like the architecture students, the landscape students, the urban planning students from your various years?
I mean, yeah, all my friends are from urban planning. It's very like, you're with your first year, then you all get separated. But my first year was during COVID, so I was only in this building for one semester. In my summer semester, because I joined CAP late, it was completely online. So it was just very like, it was hard to keep connections. And weirdly enough, my section of my first year was a lot of urban planning people. So I don't know how that happened. But yeah, there is that disconnect there.
I also experienced through COVID my first year, more like a hybrid. So it was a little more difficult to like make those connections in the first year because everyone had masks. And then when we didn't have masks, we're like, whoa, who are you? But with like these like ULI and APA conferences, you are able to stay in touch with your classmates and people from upper classes. And I still stay in touch with people from in my first year as well, so yeah.
Two, please. Okay. Hello. My question is, what do you feel is your greatest accomplishment within your profession?
You want to start?
This might seem a little crazy to say how I'm going to say this, but I would say staying in the profession was my greatest accomplishment. Because again, when I first started working, I was literally at a desk doing AutoCAD, and I got a little jaded, and I considered like, what other things do I want to do? And so my greatest accomplishment was staying in the profession, learning, and it led me to where I am at today. If I would have quit, I don't know what I would have been doing. So there's always going to be some things that knock you off the roller coaster, or knock you off your path. You're planning to go from here to there, and all along the way, I mean, I've been out of school since '93, so that's over almost 30 years. I think it's 30 years. There's been a lot of things that could have knocked me off the profession. One, my thinking about where I was placed, being into positions where actually I lost a job not because my department didn't have enough work, another department didn't, so they let me go. And so that could have caused me to, forget this. And so, figuring out what I wanted to do, knowing I wanted to, and I almost left Indianapolis to go I'm originally from Texas. I was born in Houston, but I grew up in Indianapolis on the east side, where the greatest high school. But yeah, staying in the profession and getting to see some of the things that it takes a while for vision, starting at the urban planning level and master planning, to get to fruition. If I hadn't stayed, I wouldn't have gotten to see those things. Like, I've seen the documents that actually made the Monon. Like the actual document was called the reconnaissance for the Monon. Like this used to be a train. That's like a military term. And so they literally had to do things secretly at night to study it because there was so much NIMBYism, not in my backyard, about changing this. And to be able to see that now, to go from what it used to be to beachfront property, basically. Everybody wants to develop on it, everybody wants to ride on it. Like, to be able to see things that were just ideas to literally ribbon cutting and people taking credit that were against them. You've been around long enough to see the people who were your nemesis in the Marvel comics now be your friends and want to take credit for the ideas that they were against. Oh. So that's, there you go.
Oh, wow.
So you got to stick with it. That's what I can say.
I have a question myself. Also, I'm a little biased about high school, so I'm not even from Indiana, so ooh. HF is the best. Anyway, when you encounter like nemesis or people who are kind of like what you did not expect and don't like represent professionalism in the field, what do you do to protect yourself from being affected by that? Because I can imagine. I went to one meeting for like class credit. It was our urban planning meeting about solar panels last year. And there was an individual there who was making some really crazy remarks. And it was crazy to see people on stage still maintaining their calmness and being professional. So how do you overcome encountering individuals like so? In the workforce or just in general?
I got many examples.
For me, it's very important that you maintain professionalism. You can't control what that person is going to say, how they're going to act. You can control how you act. And that's all what you really can do. I have people yell at me at public meetings, but I maintain professionalism and don't match their energy in that sense. And that's really all.
I just have this like recurring nightmare of this project that I love, and then I see it on like Facebook, and all the comments are just people hating on my baby. And I ask a lot of people in my field, I'm like, how do you get over that? And they're like, oh, I just don't read the comments. They're just like, you just can't think like that, Bridget.
So, I'm not going to say always. I'm not going to say you're going to always have people that are against any idea. If you want to go left, somebody wants to go right in a public meeting. One thing you have to do is learn to listen, because even if the person is against your idea, well, there's sometimes people come to a meeting and they're upset about something that has nothing to do with your idea. They've just come because it's a public meeting and they want to talk about the trash in the alley behind their house. And so listening gets you to figure out what is the one thing that you can have common bond on and help them. If you help them with the one issue that they might be against for your idea, they might come on the other side because you help them with the thing that they're really upset about. But you might always have somebody that's, again, you come up with an idea, somebody's going to be against it. And so you have to try to be able to find the people who are for the idea, but take the grain of salt, the 1% truth that this person might have against whatever it is that you're trying to do. And again, it's not you, it's the idea, it's the concept, it's the thing that you're talking about. They're not mad at you, they're mad at something else. And so,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the answer. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, here I come, 1 second.
And you will learn those techniques if you stay in the business. It's just another day. It's just, Being in parks, I'm sorry, I'm coming to your question. The great thing about being in parks is there's not really a bad day. A bad day in parks, I can go to Eagle Creek. I can go ride the Monon and inspect something. I can go walking and clear my head. I'm not dealing with Guantanamo Bay. I'm not dealing with terrorism. I work in parks. So again, a bad day in parks beats a good day in many other jobs, okay? So put it in perspective.
I'm from Indiana also, since we're talking about the best high schools. I'm from Gary, Indiana. I graduated from Gary Roosevelt. Go Panthers.
All right, go.
So my question to you, Mr. Denham, was I heard you speak about you were getting a MDiv, and what is your vision to incorporate that degree with your present degree? Or do you have any visions that will expand to this community and other communities throughout the nation?
So you just threw me a loaded question with a softball, so it's okay. With my beliefs of caring for other people as it relates to sharing the gospel and discipling and helping other people, I think my mindset and my thinking as it comes from design is always being able to look at things and make connections and see how things can connect. And so I might be in a public meeting for something related to parks, but somebody is talking about a homeless issue, which we have currently, and many other cities have that. A lot of homeless, or I think the term now is called unhoused, or living or camping in parks or along trails. And so I come at it with a different mindset than let's just move them off. Let's try to figure out what department or what area can help with whatever the challenge is. Some of it comes with mental issues. Some of it, the people are veterans. And so I try to make connections to try to fix those ideas. In our city, we have food deserts. And so right now the big thing is how can we create community gardens or things of that nature. On one side it's great, but the other side is, okay, well, how can we also teach people how to do it in their apartment or on their property so they take more ownership of it? Because we've also had issues of we create a community garden and somebody steals people's crops and takes it for themselves. And so I'm always making connections how to try to make things better or figure out how we can work together. And so those two degrees are not opposite, they actually complement each other. So, hope that answers your question. I can go deeper privately.
Thank you for that great answer. Is anybody else interested in asking the question? No? Oh, okay. This will be our last question of the night.
No, don't let it be the last one.
We can still create a time for you guys to mingle. That's why we have this extra time over.
This is kind of a specific question, but since your daughter chose to go into a similar field as you, has that made you want to be as a dad, make it tougher for her to toughen her up, or has that made it so that you make it easier for her so she can get in there? I don't know if I worded it correctly, but you know how like the owner's son is on the job site and he's either...
Yeah, I get it. So you'll have to ask her if I was harder on her or easier on her. But I think as a parent, all parents want to help their children be better. And so once this free thinker next to me found her thing that she wanted, because before it was something else. And so one of the things my wife and I, her mom, did, who is also a Ball State graduate, chirp chirp, was we were able to send her to a couple of camps so that, you know, it was like, okay, do you really want to do that thing forever? And so she went to a different camp, recognized by one of her teachers at a different high school, not on the far east side of Indianapolis. But they sent her to this camp, and she was like, yeah, that was fun, but I don't think I could do that for the rest of my life. And so knowing some of the things that she liked to do, I was like, well, hey, why don't you look into this interior design? Maybe not architecture, but interior design. So I was able to use a little influence to get her into a summer camp here. And so it wasn't free, I had to pay, but still, I used a little influence and got her in, and that was when she came back with her eyes bright. And so from there, it was a tug of war, because the tug of war was like, Nia, you need to do this. There's some things you need to think about. Here's some applications for scholarships. And being a loving child whose father she believes doesn't know anything, she didn't take as much advice in those areas. But I did try to help plow the path for her so she could, do some things.
Okay. So to answer that question, let me think for a second. Well, no, wait. I'm done thinking now.
I had one other thing to help.
I did. So in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So when I came into college, I did. But in high school, I was like, I know I want to do something creative. I'm a creative mind, creative thinker. I don't know, but I was just like something creative. So at first, I wanted to go to culinary school. I wanted to be like a baker or something. Then after that, I wanted to do fashion design. And then after that, I really was like into science. And then I was like, let me do biology. And then I went to that biology camp, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, it was cool to hypothetically think about science, but actually doing everything, it was just like, no. But it was cool for a second. And then, interior design camp here at Ball State for like 10 days or whatever. Professor Reza was there, if y'all know Reza. He's a character, I love him, but we literally had a great time. And then I was like, I think I want to keep doing this. And I was a little nervous because I was like, I just chose this like maybe junior, senior year of high school. And I was like, I'm just going in here. I know I want to do interior design, but it was really like, okay, I have to work for this degree. It wasn't like I just got it handed to me or anything. It was like, okay, I know I want to do this, and I'm going to work my hardest, like work my butt off to show that I know how to think critically. I can do design. I can figure out different space planning, things like that. And I use that stuff to this day. Like going to work tomorrow, and I'm like already thinking 5 steps ahead of what I have to do like in 3 weeks. So it's a lot of just like figuring out where I want to go, knowing where I want to be in the future. So then I take the steps back and be like, okay, this is what I want to do to get there. So interior design was just like, this is part of my step, and this is part of like what I want to do going forward. And Ball State helped me get there. So
Hope that answers your question. So I wanted her to go through all the all-nighters that I had to go through. So I didn't want any of that to be easy for her. But she could call me and ask questions. I actually think I gave Anaya more information than her. So there you go.
Thank you guys so much. Can we give them all a round of applause, please? Yeah, thank you. We just want to share with you guys our charter that he has signed himself to help start NOMA. Without him, we would not literally be here right now and have me personally as a person of color. It's actually a safe space for me to be comfortable and have a community. So thank you so much for creating NOMA.
I got to see that last year. It was incredible. My signature stayed the same too. That's the scary part.
Actually, I am very curious. Are you still connected with the individuals who signed it as well?
So the main person on there, Danny Render, I keep in contact with. He's over in Dubai or somewhere like that. But I keep in contact with him, yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That was great. Give him a round of applause again. Okay, so we're also going to take the time, if you want to, you can also mingle and connect with them as well. I know some of them brought some business cards to share. We're also going to announce the winners to our auctions.
Before you do that,
Yes.
I have one last thing, and this is really good. I apologize.
No, you're okay.
I got the okay to say this. So in my department with Ball State, Indy Parks, we have 2 people retiring. And so there's going to be 2 open positions. Not saying that Ball State graduates would get them, but we are looking for definitely graduate landscape architects, undergraduate and graduate, to come in that we can mold and build up to take over and design, because I will probably be retiring in maybe 5 or 6 years. And so we would love to have some young people to come in and help build the next level of parks in Indianapolis. And so if you're so inclined, 5th-year students, to have an indoor track with a Ball State graduate to a position. There it is. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming to our 4th annual symposium. I hope you guys get a lot of insight. If you want to connect, feel free to do so. I'm pretty sure they're open to connecting as well.